All right, so we are doing best practices quick takes part 3 with a whole bunch of different little shortcuts and tips, but tech tips and teaching tips that you can really easily implement if you so desire. If you see my screen right now, the link. So how I design my slide decks is that all of them are like have live links to the tutorial. So whatever I'm talking about, if you click on the image on that page, it'll take you to directions or a template or something. So if you want to jot this down, it's a bit.ly and then all caps best practices 3. I'll also have this available at the end of the presentation on the last slide, so you don't have to furiously copy it down now, but it is and is also on our website. So it's available to you multiple ways. So here we go. I always kind of start off with I'm on Twitter because a couple of years ago I went to a math conference and they're like, Twitter is the ultimate like worldwide faculty lounge is how they labeled it. And so I've joined and followed some math teachers, and these days basically I find 3 things. I find stuff on anti-racist teaching, I find stuff on math, and I find stuff on ed tech. And so this particular one, the teacher wrote, first grade teacher, I told the class that breakout rooms weren't working today. And the first grader said, Mrs. Carr, you need to call AAA. And I think it's appropriate in these days. When the other day we had all 4 of us on Zoom and all of a sudden it said unstable connection. I look out the window and there's a Comcast guy outside on a cherry picker working on the lines. I'll be down for 15 minutes. I'm like, we can't, we're all doing school right now. So here we go. Office hours and notifications. So a lot of you doing office hours, asynchronous time. One way to make it more productive, so you're not just sitting there staring at yourself the entire time, is to turn on the sound notification. So here's what I recommend. In order to turn on sound notification, you have to go to zoom.us. So let me back up. Let's say you have an office hour. It's Fridays from 2 to 3. And you don't want to just sit there with Zoom on the whole time staring at yourself. What you can do is go to zoom.us and change this setting where it says sound notification when someone joins or leaves. I typically don't like that when I'm teaching class because then you hear all these throughout class. But if you turn it on just for this office hours, what you can then do is minimize your Zoom screen. And what's going to happen is that when you minimize your Zoom screen, you'll see a little window of yourself on there, and then mute yourself. And then you can just work on your browser, right? You don't even have to have your earphones plugged in because I know it gets annoying to have earphones or headset on the whole time. Just crank up your volume. And so as you're working, answering emails, planning lessons, as soon as a student comes in, you'll hear that sound. And then you can just open up maximize your screen, plug in your headphones at that point if you want. Make sure you unmute yourself. This, I think, will just help you make your office hours more productive for yourself here, so you're not just sitting there waiting. So again, your first step would be have to go to zoom.us and turn on these sound notifications for when somebody enters your room. Slow reveal graphs is something I came across last year. This woman teacher has devised, I'm going to read it to you because I think she describes it best. The slow reveal graph is an instructional routine that promotes sense making about data. This highly engaging routine uses scaffolded visuals and discourse to help students make sense of data. As more and more of the graph is revealed, students refine their interpretation and construct meaning, often in surprising ways. This routine increases access for students without sacrificing rigor or engagement. So I'm gonna give you a quick example. And this can be done, I think, at all age levels and in all curricular areas. So basically, you find a graph that you think is interesting. Like typically you would tell them, oh, just read this graph, interpret it, answer some questions about it. This routine really forces them to think broadly and be curious about the graph. And so you'll see something like this. That's a bar graph, right? You can say, what do you notice about it? And they'll say, oh, I see some long bars, I see some short bars, I see longer bars at the top. So there's some prompts that come. These are all pre-made lessons that are free that she offers up. And she also teaches you how to make them. And I'll talk about that at the end. And so that's the first slide, right? And the second slide, whoa, I didn't mean to do that. They've added a little bit more information. So now you can see that the longest bar is United States, and then Rwanda, and then Russia, and then Brazil, going down to India. And so you might start polling the kids. What do you think the categories might be? Like what could it be where the United States is the most, but Rwanda is second? Rwanda is not a necessarily big country. It's not necessarily a rich country. You don't think of it. But what could it be second place for? And that, you know, the class discusses, you can write down some of their guesses, and then you reveal the next one. Ooh, it shows that India has 33, Sweden has 57, Denmark has 59. That gives us a little more clue, right? It gives us a little bit more idea. You could say, oh, well, if Denmark is 59, what do you think Germany is? What do you think Russia? What do you think United States is? If this is the length for 59 on Denmark, what do you think what number is United States? And does this give us more clue? You know, could this be number of schools in the country? No, that would be too many or too few. So you're building off of what you've given. And then the final revealing one is international rates of incarceration per 100,000. And so everything's finally revealed, and then you can talk about this in a really meaningful way as they explored all these topics along the way. And so the website for this is slowrevealgraphs.com. And if you look through and under resources of the classroom, they have different types of graphs like bar graph, stack graph, line graph. They've introduced a lot for social justice. They've introduced one for saving the planet, stuff for incarceration in the US. And so there's a lot of cool resources, and that you just download the entire Google slide and you can present it. If you have your own graph that you really like, she teaches, I think there's some place where she teaches you, but basically you take the graph and you just basically cut and paste little white squares on top. So you block out pieces of information and you slowly reveal one at a time on subsequent slides. So it's a really neat routine. It is important that you check for Zoom updates, I would say weekly. The updates do two things. They add new functionality and they help fix the bugs that are in Zoom. And I think Zoom is getting so much input nowadays on both new functionality as well as things to fix, that it's really important that you do an update, and they're really quick. If you want to, I'm going to tell you right now how to do it, but you don't want to if you do it right now, it would kick you off the call. But if in the upper left-hand corner, if you are on the Zoom app, you click on zoom.us, and if the third, fourth option down is check for updates. And you click on that, it'll walk you through an update process. It takes you like a minute, minute and a half. Sarah, question?
Yeah, Rich, hey, nice to see you.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question about this? Do you know if students who are on district Chromebooks are able to do their own updates of the Zoom that is on the Chromebook? Because one of the issues that I started having is major audio interference, whereby like they sound like they're in a subway, but it's only happening for kids that are on Chromebooks. And like on my Zoom, when I go to my little mute caret, I can open my audio settings and I see something that says suppress background noise, and mine is like set to audio. But everybody who's having this issue, when they go to audio settings, they don't have that feature called suppress audio settings. And I don't know if it's because their Zoom isn't updated enough, or if it's because it doesn't exist when you're running Zoom on a Chromebook platform. I don't know if that's something you could research or if you know about. But
I am emailing myself right now to check in with tech. My son has a Chromebook, so I'll try it with his first. And then if I can't figure out how to do it, I will check in with tech. That's a great question.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So yeah, I would definitely do it once a week at least, just because they've rolled out so much. The latest updates, if you include self-selecting breakout rooms. However, the big caveat to that is that you actually do have to have the updated version of Zoom to do that. So your question is a very good one in whether Chromebooks can or cannot. Self-select breakout rooms. So that's the newest feature on the latest version of Zoom. When you're setting up breakout rooms, you can click the options where students can choose their own. Once you do that, what happens is that they can press the breakout room. When you open the rooms, they'll have a room that says breakout. They'll have a button that says breakout room that they can press, and they can see who's in rooms, and they can choose which room to go to. Once they're in a room, they can choose to go to a different room. So there's flexibility to move from group to group. So for example, if you have, all of the students who are reading this particular book, please go to a room and talk about it. You can actually label the rooms as the different books, or if there's a different topic they want to talk about. And again, they can move from room to room. If you would like, we can try that right now. So if you don't mind this slight interruption, what I'm going to ask you to do is this. Update your Zoom if you haven't already, which again, I'm going to go back one slide. Go to Zoom. So you'll probably get kicked off. That's fine. Just join back in after the update, and then I'll let you experience the breakout rooms. Okay, so that you know what it looks like on a student end. So go ahead and do the update, and then come back and join this meeting. So about 3 minutes. Hopefully you can update the Zoom. And okay, again, it's okay if you get kicked off. Just go back into this in 3 minutes, and then I'll turn on breakout rooms.
Hey, Rich, while people are doing that,
Yeah.
have you noticed a couple of weird things? And I'm wondering if it's maybe like a bug with the recent update, and maybe I should even update again. But I've had a couple of kids who, with pre-assigned breakout rooms, the same ones I've been using all along, and they're actually working well now. I'll hit go, and a few kids end up in rooms by themselves. Kids who—
That's multiple people reported that.
Yeah.
Multiple
Okay.
people reported that. One second, Carla, just go to zoom.us on the upper left hand. So we have to be on the Zoom app, and then you need to click on the zoom.us and go to check updates. Yeah, so I suggest, somebody texted me or emailed me about that, and I suggested the following things. I said, do the update and restart your computer. However, that didn't do it. So my guess is that something with the new ones, because they have these new breakout rooms, self-select, there might be some glitch in there. So I don't think it's something you're doing wrong. I think it's something on Zoom's end. It's my guess.
And then there's one more thing, which is one breakout room in each period can't share screens. And I can't change it.
So
one room.
That is odd. I will say that another of the new features on Zoom is that previously we couldn't set any of the rules in the breakout rooms. They could annotate, they could share, could do all these things. So this latest update has made it so that the breakout room rules align with your class rules.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put no breakout rooms, they can't do breakout rooms. And so one thing you might want to check, it's weird that only one room does it, but if you press a security button on your toolbar, are you familiar with that button? You don't have it right now, but just make sure that sharing screens is enabled on that.
Okay.
Is my suggestion. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stop sharing and open some breakout rooms, and you guys can just experience what it feels like to go from room to room. So I'm gonna set 3 different rooms. I'll give you 2 minutes, and you can just jump from room to room. So again, what's going to happen once I create the breakout rooms, that you'll see a button on the bottom bar that says breakout rooms. And I think you can click on that and then select one of the 3 rooms. So what I suggest is that you go to, just go to different rooms. Okay, here we go. Carla, it's not on the zoom.us, it's on the Zoom app. So when you're on the Zoom app, you go to the toolbar on the top, or the menu bar on the top, and you should see, right after the Apple icon, you should see zoom.us. Oh, I didn't open rooms yet. There we go. So you should see the breakout room button on the bottom, and you should see a choice of room 1, 2, 3. Once people start joining, I believe you should see who's in the rooms, and you can go and hang out with your friends that you know in there.
Yeah. Hey, Rich.
Yep.
I don't have the app. I mean, I don't know.
Well, you're running Zoom via the app right now, right?
I'm running it on the website.
Oh, you've never downloaded the app?
I haven't downloaded the app either.
I get the links from the calendar or from wherever, and it takes me to.
But you on your menu on your Mac, on the menu bar on the bottom, is there a Zoom icon?
There is.
Then you are running the app. You just started in the browser, but you are running it through the app. So click on that icon.
I did, yeah.
Okay. And on the menu bar on top, do you see a zoom.us next to the apple on the very, very top? Do you see the apple?
Okay.
Upper left-hand part of your screen. You're running your MacBook, right?
Yes.
You see an apple in the upper left-hand corner?
An apple?
At the upper left-hand corner of the screen, an apple.
No.
On the very top menu bar we see where your time is?
Yes.
Oh, maybe you're in full screen mode.
Okay.
You see the time. Go
Yes.
left of the time, all the way to the left corner.
Yes. Okay, good. Yes, thank you. Sorry. Yes. Okay. What about it?
You see the zoom.us to the right of the apple?
No. I'm not sure what you're saying. I'm sorry.
Okay.
At the top of where the apple is, to the right of that says Finder and File and Edit.
Okay. So now click on the zoom icon on the bottom again.
Okay.
And then now look at the top again. Do you see,
All right.
instead of Finder, it should have zoom.us.
No, just grayed out. Nothing.
Okay. Well, we can look at it another time. Then.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to. How'd you get the butterflies to go? Lucy, how'd you get butterflies?
I don't know.
Do you see them?
Yes. Heaven only knows, but I just installed the update. I just updated. And I can see the breakout rooms now, but I also got butterflies. Heaven only knows why. You know, my life with technology is always exciting.
Okay. I'm going to go and close the rooms, and then we'll.
I just got here. I was trying to join the
Oh,
room.
sorry.
Okay.
Can you still get in?
No.
Did it?
Why I have the butterflies.
Oh my God, Lucy, you've got
Lucy,
butterflies fluttering
how
about
do
you.
I do.
You're magical.
Imagine that.
Oh,
What
I
is
love
that?
it.
Okay, continuing along. Breakout rooms. Again, all participants. So you guys obviously had to update before you can get there. Okay, next one, clevergroups.com. This is a slick app where, let's say you're trying to make table groups, right? And this would be, for real life or for this digital scenario. And you poll your students, who do you want to be in a table group with? And they submit all these scraps of paper or emails telling you who they want to be with. But for you to accommodate them would be a big old mess. Clever Groups will take that input from them and make and optimize and create the number of groups that you want and accommodate as many of their requests as possible. So it will take the guesswork out of creating groups for you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty cool, huh? So clevergroups.com is the website. So again, later on when you look at this slide deck, you can just click on this icon. It will take you to the website. It's not the prettiest website as far as it's very text heavy, but you just log in and try it and it'll create your groups for you. Next one, taking screenshots. If you've never, if you're inserting images into a doc, I'm assuming you are just right clicking and cutting and pasting. Sometimes if you want to take a screenshot of a part of a website or part of a page, you can't do it with the right click. And so this shortcut changed my life when I got it. It basically allows you to take a picture of a portion of the screen that you choose, that you designate. So I'm going to teach you how to do it right now. And then this you can watch the video of it later. But so just so you can try it, if you press Shift, Control, Command, and 4 simultaneously. Shift, Control, Command, those are pretty close to each other. And then the number 4. What's going to happen is it's going to kind of gray out. Well, it's going to bring up these crosshairs with numbers on them. Take that little crosshair where you want to start, like one corner of what you want to screenshot, and then click and then drag out a rectangle of the image that you want to screenshot. And then once you let go, you'll hear a photo clicking sound. Now it's on your clipboard. Now you just press Control V, and whatever it's captured, what you just hold that rectangle onto. So if you want, I don't know if you have a slideshow open or if you have an email open, you could just press Command V and paste in. So I will show you my email. I just screenshotted a portion of the screen. And if I press Command V, I just screenshot. So it's not the whole screen, it's just a portion of the screen that I wanted. So again, those buttons were Shift, Control, Command, and the number 4. And it copies an image onto the clipboard for you. If you just do Shift Command 4, what it does is it creates a file. It doesn't go to your clipboard. It creates the JPEG file on your desktop. So that's the difference. So somebody pointed out, you can also use Shift Command 4, but for that, it creates a file versus doing a copy onto your clipboard. Okay, so next one. I read about this recently. Blue light, basically, it comes from the sun and from man-made sources like screens, but blue light is troublesome because it penetrates all the way to your retina. And blue light, sustained, prolonged, intense exposure can lead to macular degeneration and subsequent vision loss. And it also leads to digital eye strain. And so one recommendation I'm making is that since we're on the screen so much, I don't have prescription glasses. I just got these off of Amazon. They're blue light blocking glasses, just so that it helps our eyes as we're staring on the screen so much. There's also a way that you can turn off the blue light setting on your phone. So later on when you click on this little phone icon, there's a little video that teaches you how to, because right now, a friend told me about this hack because you could set it so that, I think the blue light mainly is worse at night for you. And so there's a setting on the Apple iPhone, for example, you can set the hours where it turns off the blue light, but I just set it so it's off all the time so that I don't have to worry about it. So, but blue light glasses like this are $10, $15 on Amazon, or like 20 for two, just to help our eyes. Chat Blast is a strategy I've come across a lot lately. Basically, it allows for you to kind of get input from everybody at the same time in a quick way. And so let's just practice it real quick. So this is how it would work. Let's say you just delivered a lesson and you talked about a concept and you really wanted to get a feel for how much people understand it. So I would say to everybody at this point, everybody get on the chat screen and don't press anything yet, but I will tell you, 5 means you 100% understand it. 1 means you still totally don't get it. I'd like you to type that number in the chat screen, but don't hit enter yet. And then when I say so, on the count of 3, we'll all hit enter at the same time. All right, so you guys can just, let's say, how's your day going? 5 is awesome and 1 is terrible, all right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, type in your number, but don't hit enter yet. And then when I count to 3, everybody's gonna hit enter simultaneously, and we can look through there and kind of get a feel for where everybody's at. So, all right, 1, so everybody get your number in? When I count to 3, everybody's gonna hit enter. 1, 2, 3, go. All right, so let's do a different one where it says text answer. Let's say, what's your favorite ice cream flavor? Please type in your favorite ice cream flavor, and don't hit enter yet. When I say 3, we're gonna hit enter. All right, type in your favorite ice cream flavor. And what I'm calling this is a chat blast. It's a chat blast, okay? Count of 3, 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, so then I would give time for people to kind of scroll through to see what everybody's input was. The suggestions I've also seen, so those are for formative assessment, for opinions. For formative assessment, if you're looking for a right or wrong answer, then what they suggest is doing the chat blast, but setting it so the blast only comes to you. So let's say you gave a math equation, you want them to chat blast the answer, but you don't want everybody to see who got it wrong. You could have it set so that they can only chat with the host, and then you could quickly scan, I can see most people got it right or half people got it wrong, and you can adjust based on that. But the strategy of the chat blast can get everybody involved, especially people who don't want to share it, very harmless. They type it in, and then everybody gets to see everybody's responses as well.
Can I ask, to have it go just to the chat, just go to the host, can you set that ahead of time, or do you only set that in meeting?
You can.
Because I go into other people's classrooms sometimes and they couldn't make it do that.
So for the host, okay, so this is a handy situation. I'm actually going to take a screenshot of my chat screen. All right, and I'm going to show you where it's at. So I'm just let's see. Whoops. Sorry, give me 1 second. So if you are the host and you hit, there's a little menu button. So I just cut and pasted, so I'm just moving it around right here, right? There's little 3 dots here. If you click on that, it says participant can chat with no one, host only, or everyone publicly. So that's an in-meeting setting that you can change all the time. So if you one question you want to just go to you, you can change it to host only. If one question you want everybody to see, you can change it to everybody publicly. So it's a very quick and easy change. But you don't have that at your disposal right now because you're not the host, but since I'm the host, I see these 3 buttons. So it's right within the chat menu. Okay, moving right along. A couple follow-up, you could follow up with a student. I noticed you put a 5 on this. Why did you put a 5? Or why did you think, why is your favorite color, flavor, whatchamacallit? Or how did you come to this answer? It's a good starting point. Definitely give time and encourage students to scroll through the chat blast to see other people's responses. Text Giraffe is a really cool website that takes what something that you want as a title and generates these really cool so you type in a title and it'll make it into a cool graphic for you, and so in a whole bunch of different fonts. And so this is the website Text Giraffe. I can just type in class, I hit go, and it's not a font generator. It's just taking what I've typed in and giving me a whole bunch of different ways, cool fonts. So it just makes your websites look a little snazzier. And so it has it has pages and pages and pages of what I just typed in different formats. And so once I come to one I want, I can click on it, and then I can download the logo. I just cut and paste it and stick it into my whatever document you want, and it's kind of a really cool, neat way of creating cool kind of title / logo things. Okay, that's Text Giraffe. One thing I rely on a lot is reminders via Google Calendar, whether it be meetings or due dates or stuff. And so what I encourage, if you have, whether it be a doctor's appointment or office hours or a meeting you have with your faculty, I like to set reminders. And so let's say how you do it is once you go to an event that you have on your calendar, or sometimes I create events, you go to add notification right here, and there have 2 options, either an email notification or a notification that pops up on your screen. I generally prefer the email because I check that more. And so for example, okay, this is a silly thing, but I have certain authors who I follow, and they come out with books like once a year. And let's say I find out their book is coming out in November. I might put, and I want to go check it out at the library. I might put a notification, check out this book in the library on November 25th. But then I'll do an email notification like a week before, then 2 days before, then 3 hours before. So I get multiple reminders. And then once you hit save, you can set these emails for 10 minutes, however many minutes, days, weeks, hours before. And so that really helps me to be reminded of especially long range things. And so I think that is a really good tool to have to just keep you on top of things, setting email reminders for yourself so that you get sent an email when that event or whatever is about to happen. So IEP meetings, PD sessions, get a hot date, remind yourself to get gussied up for it. Oh, here's a cool one. I came upon this maybe a month ago, and I didn't think our students would be savvy enough. But then I just got reported from a couple teachers saying that it's appeared on TikTok. So when you create a quiz on Google Forms, there's this new hack now where students can, even if they're not very tech savvy, and I thought they had to be tech savvy to do it, but even if they're not very tech savvy, they can open up the code for your Google form and find all the right answers within the code. So they can look through and it's like, I did all the right, and they can put all the right answers. And beyond that, even further than that, somebody has made an app that will do it all for you. So if you just install it on your phone and then you're taking the Google form quiz or test that your teacher's given you, that app will automatically reveal all the right answers to you, right? So I'm going to offer you a couple ideas to defeat that. Number one, when you're making a quiz on Google Forms, you have to turn on quiz mode, right? You can just turn off quiz mode during the quiz and then turn it back on after they've all submitted it and you're set. Then the codes will not be revealed. That's one solution. Second solution, which I like better, and I think serves as more of a deterrent, is once you've made your quiz, put in a whole bunch of fake answers. Like 2 routes. Put in fake answers or put all the answers as D, right? So that when they go in the code, they'll reveal them. Well, first of all, if they put all Ds, they'll realize that something's fishy. Or if they copy all your wrong answers and get it all wrong, I wouldn't even bust them for cheating. I wouldn't even call it out. They would at that point realize that it doesn't work. There's something broken with it, right? And so I think that would deter them from doing it further, because some kids are going to come upon it. Hey, I found this. It works the first time. And then once the next time through, if you, as you're making your answer key, make all the answers wrong purposely after they've all taken the quiz and submitted, now you go back and put in the right answers and grade it based on the right answers now, they'll learn the hard way that the hack doesn't work. And so it's up to you whether you bust them or not, but I feel like if you outsmart them this way, by making all the answers D or putting fake answers, it'll deter them from wanting doing it. It does involve an extra step in your part, but as you know, we have to stay a step ahead of them, right? Google Classroom Guardian Summaries. These are reports that families get that don't involve grades. The parents cannot go into the Google Classroom, but what they do is they get a weekly report on the day and time of their choosing, where they see what the kid has turned in and what the kid has missing and any upcoming stuff. And so I think it's a really important summary because, you know, let's say they've turned in a story that they wrote. And if the parent were to rely on Aries update to see whether it's turned in, it's going to take some time because you need time to grade it, right? Just mark it off as being done and whatnot and read through all of them. And so that's going to take some time. There's a lag time. For the Google Classroom Parent Summaries, as soon as they submit it, it'll show as done. And so that it's a little intermediate step for you so that they don't have to come to you and say, oh, was my student missing? Because they'll get these automatic weekly reports about what's missing. The one thing it doesn't prevent is if the student is just pressing turn in without submitting anything with it. But for those who are actually submitting stuff appropriately, this is a good stopgap measure to keep parents informed. However, the kind of a pain in the butt thing about it is to invite parents to the classroom, you need to input one address at a time for each kid. And so the way that I've done it in years past with here's my advice on how to do it. Have a split screen on your computer. Half of it be your Google Classroom open with all those students on there on the people page. The other half, pull up an Aries report with all the parent emails. And so you can just sit there, cut and paste, stick it in that side-by-side window. So you're just doing a bunch of cut and paste from side to side, and you can do it relatively quickly. The only thing to be careful of is on your Aries report with all the emails, make sure you're pasting the correct address into the correct student. Because some students have 2 parent contacts or 2 guardian contacts, and some have only 1. So you don't want to invite because those reports are associated with the student. So make sure you're doing it correctly as far as correct student. Yeah, so let me move on from there. Drag and drop activities with unmovable backgrounds. So a lot of teachers have come up with really cool activities where they've made on Google Slides, like a word sort, and the student needs to drag it into the right column. And so like my son had something like this earlier this week. And you know, he had a whole bunch of categories with different word sounds and then a different bunch of words off to the side in boxes that they were supposed to drag into the correct column, right? Let me first say that for young kids, dragging and dropping is a tricky fine motor skill. you've got to be holding down the trackpad, use another finger, drag it across the screen, and you got to tap it just right, or it changes the size of the box, or it rotates the box. It's not as easy as you would think, for especially from the perspective of we've done this for all our lives. But to add a further layer of complication on, so I have aphid here. I'm gonna put it in this box. Now, this template that I have, all these are boxes, right? Text boxes, and they're nice, convenient boxes for the kid to drag them in. But watch this. If I drag aphid and I drag them into the wrong box, all right, and later on I realize, oh, I need to change it. As I try to click on it, I'm clicking on this box instead. I can't even reach the aphid anymore because it's buried underneath that text box. So if I were to move now, I'd have to move this box out of the way before I can access the aphid again, which is super frustrating and hard for the kids. And so if you are going to create a drag and drop activity like this, what I strongly recommend is that you make the background a permanent background. And let me show you what I mean by that. And I can actually go through the process as long as I get rid of this aphid. Okay, so how you do that is and I've included a video on my slide deck, but you go to File, and you're going to click Download. And you're going to download, what you're downloading is this page. You're going to download an image of this page. And so I'm going to download as PNG. And then I'm going to create a new, and it's going to ask me, I'm just going to save it on my desktop, and I'm going to name it the word sort sample. And then I'm going to create a new slide because I don't want to use that slide because that slide has all those movable things. I'm going to start fresh. I'm going to delete everything here. Now I'm going to click background. I'm going to choose image, browse, and I'm just going to browse on over to the word sort sample PNG that I downloaded. Actually, you don't have to do that. You can just drag, it downloaded right here. You see my box right here? I could have, let me just redo that again in a slicker way that I saw in the tutorial. Once I click choose image, I can drag this up to here. Do you guys see what I did? So when you download an image, it goes under the bar around here. And so while you could hit browse and find the image, the easier way, just drag it up into here, and boom, it loads it. I can just click done. And now, check this out. None of this can be moved. So I should have, if I were to now grab my aphid, and take it to the next slide that I created where the boxes are now backgrounds, as I drag this on here, I can no longer drag these background boxes. Now I can move this around freely without having to worry about accidentally clicking onto the box like I did up here, right? Here I can move, all these boxes are moved. They could even change these titles if they wanted to. You don't want all that. You want the background to be permanent and solid so that they can just move what they want to move.
Richard?
Yeah.
Would it work if we use the other hack you showed us with the shift command for, if we put it on our clipboard and then clipped it so that we wouldn't have to name it and everything?
That's a great question. And unfortunately, when you press the background button and I click choose image. So yeah, when you choose image, it doesn't give you an
It says
option
browse or drag. So if you could you paste, or does that not work as dragging? You know what I mean? Like if you just dropped it in?
It didn't let me. I just tried pasting something. It didn't let me.
Got it. Cool. All right. Thanks.
So yeah, download and then drag up would be the way I'm going to suggest. But yeah, I definitely suggest doing this. I could have even, this screen where I had it already on here, I could actually have made the background onto here, which I did. So watch, let me do another way. Choose image. So this is my original slide. I'm going to put this on here onto the original slide. Even if you don't create a new one. Now notice the old stuff will be on there still. I can just now delete all the old stuff off from there. Now I have a clean one. Okay, so again, the point being, make your background unmovable so it's easier for kids to drag things around. Okay, a few more. We're sitting in front of screens a lot these days, and that's not good for our mental or physical health. One other thing I found, I've really enjoyed taking walks and listening to podcasts. It's been a kind of a refuge of mine during these times. I've come across a podcast called The Happiness Lab, and it was invented by, or it's run by Professor Laurie Santos. She's a Yale professor who years ago had this idea of, I'm gonna study happiness kind of clinically, and I'm gonna give a class on it. And she thought, 30 or 40 people would sign up for the class, and like thousands signed up at Yale for the class. And so she's made a podcast of it. And so I've really enjoyed it as a kind of positive things to focus on and how to change my thinking. And, taking walks when there's good air and listening to this podcast has been really something I've enjoyed. So I'm just throwing that out to you. The Happiness Lab with Laurie Santos has been really something I've enjoyed. And that's it. That's all of Quick Takes Part 3. I don't know if people are interested in sticking around for number 2, but I could do number 2 in like 20 minutes if people want to do that. If you want to access the slide deck, it is bit.ly, bit.ly / and then all caps, best practices 3, no spaces. And so the link is on the bottom. That'll pull up the slide deck for you. So again, everything that I mentioned today, the links and the templates and all those things are on there for your perusal. Okay. Any questions on anything I presented today? Anybody interested in part 2? Maybe a raise of hands? Practice, click on your participant screen and raise hands. I'm willing to do it even if 1 or 2 want to do it. If you all want to go and start your weekend, that's up to you too. Anybody? Lucy, is that a raise hands for wanting to do part 2? Yeah? Okay. I'll go. So if you want to leave, you can leave. I'm going to start part 2. And if you want to start your weekend, feel free to. So as long as I can find the window for my part 2. Okay, here we go. Okay. Best practices, Quick Takes Part 2. I'll try to make this quick. I came across this tweet like a month ago. That says that we should try to, especially during this pandemic and when the digital age, that humanizing our schools is all that more important. And she recommends choosing compassion over compliance, patience over policing, community over content, praise over punishment, and then empathy over enforcement. So I thought it was a good reminder for all of us. Okay, breakout room sky view. This is a way to, okay, so here's what I mean by this. Let's say you have a group and you want them to all go into breakout rooms and answer a question, pro and con, right? Talk about something, record it. We want to see what you're thinking about. What you could do is send them all to the breakout rooms, have them, and then provide them the link to the slide. So this particular slide, let's see. I don't have a link for it. Anyhow, I'll describe it to you because I forgot to provide the link in the chat. Okay, no, you can do it. Why don't you open so this is good practice for you. Open a browser and go to this bit.ly in the upper right-hand corner. And that's bit.ly / all capitals breakout 4321. And go ahead and do that. Open that browser and do that. So I'm going to give you a moment to do that. Okay, and so how this would work is this. Let's say there's 5 breakout rooms and you're gonna have 2 people, however many people per breakout room, and you want them to address the prompt, we should have youth sports right now, and put in pros and cons, right? What's gonna happen is that you're gonna send them to the breakout rooms. At that point, you are going to tell them to open the slideshow and go to the breakout room go to the slide that corresponds to their breakout room number. So if they're in room 3, go to slide 3. And then what they're gonna do is they're gonna start filling out the prompt together. You can just have one person on the screen be the recorder who shares their screen and records it, but they can all type in at the same time. So the trick to all this that makes it really neat is that I'm gonna show you right now. Here's my screen, and let's say you guys are all in it. So I'm not gonna make you go in it right now, but once people are populating it, I can press this on Google Slides. You may never notice this button before, but on the lower corner, underneath all the slides, there's grid view. And so now I can see all the slides. And so if I've sent everybody to the breakout rooms and they're typing stuff in, I can see their answers live populating on any of these. So I can see answers being typed in. And so I can see, let's say, group 1, 3, and 2 are all typing in the appropriate things. Oh, but I see group 5, it's still blank. Maybe they're having trouble, maybe they're not being focused. I can now join group 5. So this allows me to see everybody's slides in real time as they get added. So it's a way to monitor them in their, quote unquote, monitor them in their breakout rooms. And so I call it sky view, but it's just basically the grid view on the bottom. So you can do this any slide. Just make the same, I made 10, 12 copies of the same slide, send them to the breakout rooms, they fill it out. Just make sure you make maybe a copy for each period, because once they fill that for one period, the comments are going to stay on there. So you want to make multiple copies, and maybe also have your own like permanent copy. But that is what I call breakout room sky view. Emojis. There's an app where you can that can allow you to put emojis into Google Classroom. I think that since the Google Classroom is not the prettiest, it's pretty text heavy. And so for you to, when they get assigned, there's a lot of reading. If you can just add a little icon, like whenever it's a science assignment, I put in this icon. If it's homework, I have, a pencil. If it's a journal entry, I have a little notebook. It helps them to kind of easily identify and organize their assignments a little better. And so the advice of using emojis in your Google Classroom is what this slide is about. You can click on this as a tutorial on how to do that. It basically entails you getting an add-on on your browser that gives you access to these little emojis. A template classroom. Let's say you find yourself, let's say you're multi-subject, even if you're not, you have different types of assignments that you constantly give. Let's say there's sometimes where it's a flip grid and the directions are always the same. Click on the link, make sure it's appropriate, make sure you have good lighting. But you find yourself writing the same assignment over and over. Or you say, let's say there's something where you even watch a video, it's not even an assignment, and the directions are all the same. Or let's say you're having them take a test, and the points are always this, the directions are always this, and you find yourself rewriting the assignment over and over. What I recommend is creating a template classroom. So making a Google Classroom with a whole bunch of templates, like a template for the writing assignment, a template for your math workbook, where the directions are all put into it, the points are all put into it. And so that from now on, when you are creating an assignment in your regular class, because you're allowed to reuse posts from any class that you've created historically. And so let's say I want to make, I want to create a writing assignment. I can click on reuse post, and then it asks me, which class do I want to get it from? I would choose my template class, and then see, I could go to my template class. I could then choose the writing assignment or the Flipgrid assignment, and it would give me access to, it would post that assignment with my ability to edit it for the specifics of this particular time. And so the recommendation is to make a classroom that's just a template classroom with different types of assignments so that you can quickly pull that assignment to start your next assignment, so you have to retype everything. So you can have directions in there, like number of points. You can have a copy for each. You can have directions, guidelines, rubrics, expectations, all those things set up. Just when next time when you make an assignment, you can reuse that post. So, this seems like a minor time saver, but considering how many assignments you're making this year, I think it could cumulatively save you a lot of time and work. You've got mail. This one of the people who I came across on Twitter wrote, "Do not check your email unless you're committed to answering them right away, or else you'll be wasting mental energy throughout your day thinking about when you'll respond." And I find that to be totally true. And so I want to give you a couple of tips for answering emails, of keeping track of them, of not losing track of them, especially when you get parent emails. Number one, the first tip is if you can reply quickly, do it right away, and then archive it so you don't have to think about it anymore. If it is an angry or emotional email, or one that elicits emotions from you like that, take some time, consult a colleague before impulsively replying. Tip 2, prevent emails that you've read from getting lost in the shuffle. Let's say you read a parent email and you're like, I'll answer at the end of the day, and then you get 50 other emails in the interim and you lose it. For me, not lose it and sense it, but it gets buried. For me, I pay way more attention to emails that are unread. And so if you go to any email that you've had, you can just, there's a button right here, it says mark as unread. So if I've read it, it is not as bold, and it's kind of, it's not as bold. I can just click this button and it changes to unread. That for me helps me to keep track of the things that I need to address. And so you could change them to unread if you want to deal with them later. There's a function called the snooze function that allows you to, so look at this email, I have archiving, I have the garbage, deleting, I have the mark as read or unread, and then the last button is a snooze button. And if I click the snooze button, what it does, it will take the email out of your inbox, and then it'll resend it to you at a future time of your choosing as a new email. So let's say there's something you don't need to address till next week. You could have it send it to, let's say we need to answer this next Tuesday. You could click snooze and look at it next Tuesday. And oftentimes I email like articles to myself or reminders to myself. Instead of doing it on the calendar, you could snooze it and just have it resend it to you at a later time so that it comes through again as a new email so it doesn't get buried. So that's a snooze function. There's another, if you find yourself writing the same email over and over again, there's a Gmail function called canned responses where you can have a template of something that you're writing over and over. So for example, if I'm doing ed tech and whenever I get tickets, my format for responding to the person is the same, I can just go to canned responses. So if I compose, I can click on, now I can't access it because you guys are putting me under pressure. Under templates, and these are all the templates I've created. I did an in-service with high school students, and like oftentimes and this is actually something you could recommend to your students. Oftentimes when students write an email, they're like, and they're firing off to teacher, it's kind of like abrupt to the point of being rude, like, when's the assignment due? And they don't always have the time or the wherewithal to kind of make a pleasant email. And I taught them, well, why don't you just make a template for it? And so here is my template for a teacher email. Dear blank, I hope you are well. I am writing in regards to blank. When you have time, I hope that we can connect and talk about this. Thanks so much for your time. Have a nice day. So you don't have to write that every time. You can just pull up the canned response. A student can pull it. You can teach your students to write this, to make a canned response and to use it whenever they email you. It just makes it feel so much better when the recipient gets something like that, right? And so you can create this for any type of email that you find that you're regularly writing to save you time. Finally, tip 5, schedule. There's a function where you can schedule when to send something. And so if I go back to my email here again, I can click on this and click schedule send, and I can choose a time for the sending. So let's say you have that parent and you know that as soon as you send the email, they send you a follow-up a minute later because they're just sitting on their computer, right? You can schedule to send, let's say they emailed you at 9 p.m. and you don't want them to know that you're replying at 9 p.m. even though you want to be done with it. You can email the response, you could write the response at 9 p.m. and just schedule send for 8:30 the next morning. Or if you want to really earn yourself some brownie points, you can schedule send for 3:37 a.m. to make them think that you are responding to them at 3:37 a.m. I think you might get some good Christmas presents or holiday presents if you do that. Okay, blank slides. If you're making a long slideshow, it's one tip is to put some blank slides interspersed in the lesson so that they can take notes, or you could write, tell me 3 things you've learned in the last few slides. You can give directions on those slides. Use those blank slides as ways that you can, that the student can process what that you've been talking about. Jeopardy, there's a, kids always like Jeopardy games, right? There is a website where you can super easily create a Jeopardy game. So all you need to do is enter the categories, enter the questions, and enter the answers, and then they can play. You can play with them live. They can play it on their own, but it's super easy to make. And that's called Jeopardy Labs. There are also people who have made Jeopardy templates on Google Slides that you can build off of. That's a little more work. Jeopardy Labs is super, built in and ready. Late work notifications, I always recommend that you either turn on late work email notifications on Google Classroom, so when students turn in something like 3 weeks late, you get an email informing you, or you can just have teachers or have the students email you that they're sending you a late assignment so you don't miss out on it. Force copy and preview. So, you know, when you share a lesson with somebody, a colleague, and you know, you're collaborating, you're doing the right thing, you're collaborating with them, and then you look at the lesson later and you see that they've made all these changes on it. One way to prevent that is to force them to make a copy. And so this works for any of the Google Suite items. And so let's say I have this item. This is the breakout room view. This is a slideshow, right? What you do is you go on the toolbar, on the address bar, and you delete everything up to the first. So start from the right-hand side and you delete everything up to that first slash, and then you type in the word copy. And then you paste the whole thing in, or you copy the whole thing, and then you send them that link. When you send them that link, what happens is when they receive that link and they click on it, it forces them to make a copy of it, and so they won't be interacting with yours. And this just prevents your colleagues from messing up your work, and it just conveniently lets them make their own. Do you have a question, Sarah Bukowski? No.
Hi, yes, I do. Thank you. So one of my questions is so we do a lot of in sixth grade sharing of lesson plans. And so if the link I write has forces you to make a copy, do I also have to make sure that all of my shared settings are set before that so anybody with a link can use it, or does that then change it?
I think if you're, I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure if you force them to make a copy, that you don't have to, the share privileges, you don't even have to share with them because they're not accessing your copy.
Okay, so it won't apply to them. Got it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so putting the word copy at the end is one cool link. The other cool tool is if you were to put the word either present or the word preview at the end, what happens is that, notice what I've been showing you is in this cool present mode where it doesn't consume my whole screen. I can still go from tab to tab because it's kind of not the greatest when you present in this mode, right? Putting in this mode allows you access to your other tabs, but it's still in a present mode. And so to do that, so I'm gonna just transform this one to present mode. I'm gonna type in present, or the word preview works. Once I hit that, now it's gonna look like this. So this is in lieu of clicking the present button up here, which then takes over my whole screen. And so oftentimes a good time to use that present mode is when you're sharing slides with your students so that they just get it in this mode, especially when this applies more when they don't have to write on it. Too many tabs open. Are you a tab addict? So having a bunch of tabs open takes up a lot of your computer memory and your operating memory. And so there's an add-on called OneTab. And what OneTab does, I'm gonna stop sharing it. I'm gonna share a different screen for you right now. What OneTab does is it consolidates all your tabs into one tab, so you can have more processing power and it's not bogging up your computer. So let me show you how it works. Okay, so I've got a bunch of tabs open here, right? Probably like 20. I've installed the OneTab add-on, and it appears in my little toolbar right here. It says OneTab. When I click on it, it's gonna grab all those tabs I have open and put it on a single website. So boom, it's collapsing all of them. Did I share screen already? Can you see this? And now all the tabs that I have are right here. If I want to restore all of them at once, I can just click restore all. If I want to click on one of them, I can just click on a single one and it opens up that one tab. It also keeps like a history of all the one tabs, I think. So I haven't explored all the features, but it will clean up your desktop tremendously and yet preserve all of these. And so OneTab is what it is called. Let me continue on. Whoops. Okay, back here. Google Slides closed captioning. This is a new feature that I just came upon, and it only works when you're in actual present mode. So if I put this into present mode, there's a little button on the bottom that says closed captioning. And if you take a look at your screen right now, you can see that Google is now live transcribing everything that I'm saying. And it's pretty accurate, and it's super fast. And so this only works when your Google Slides are in actual present mode. And when you click the closed captioning button, it's typing out every word I'm saying as I'm saying it in real time. And so that's a pretty cool feature, you know, for hard of hearing students or just people who are having trouble keeping up or visual learners. You might want to turn that on as you're presenting some Google Slides. This is just a tutorial on how to, after you've graded an assignment with Google Classroom, this tutorial will show you how to import your grades from Google Classroom into Aries, or pull the scores from Google Classroom into Aries. Okay, get to know your Chromebook. So out of all the kids in our district, almost 1,500 are using Chromebooks. And we only have like over 3,000 in our district. So I would say 30 to 40% of our students are on Chromebooks. So it's important to kind of know their limitations and abilities. And so a couple of things I want to point out. If you've never used a Zoom on Chromebook, here's what you should know about Zoom with Chromebook. There's no whiteboard. At least a student can't bring up the whiteboard. They can't annotate. They don't have virtual backgrounds. When we're in gallery view, when I'm sharing a screen, they can't access gallery view. Students can react and raise hand in the chat tool with the chat tool, but they don't see, there's no thumbs up or clapping that shows up on their own screen, so they can press some of those things, but they won't be able to see it. This link on the left-hand side has some best practice for using Zoom on Chromebooks, but I think it's just important that we're aware of what Chromebooks are and aren't capable of. And so that's that. Chromebook split screen. This is so I have a video here that basically shows, this is a screenshot of a Chromebook and allows them to really cleanly split it in half really easily by just pressing a button. So if your student has Zoom open and you want them to look at a website simultaneously, they just need to press, I think, Alt and then like one of the brackets. It'll move the Zoom to the left, and then press Alt in the other bracket, it moves the Zoom to the right. And so you might want to, so again, this is a video link. And so you might want to share that video with your students who have Chromebooks, or just share them to all students so that they can learn how to have Zoom open at the same time as a web page. It's a really cool, this is a specific Zoom shortcut for splitting the screen. Pear Deck attendance. If you want to do a Pear Deck session, it allows the students to write on the screen. So what I recommend is doing a quick warm up where, you know, you can ask them a question, they can answer on Pear Deck, but then on the Pear Deck screen, have all your student names on there and just tell them, cross off your own name. Cross off your own name, and then you can see whatever name is left is a person who is absent that day. And so this is kind of another hack if you want to use it to take attendance. You could have just a two screen Pear Deck attendance screen where the first question is like a warm-up question that they need to do multiple choice, so they can do a drag one, and then they can just go to the second screen where they take their attendance by crossing off their name, and then you can just take a look at it and you're done. I got a request to let's teachers know that you can set your default setting in replying to emails as reply instead of reply all, just because there are a lot of reply alls that fly around. And so if you go to your Google Gmail settings, there's a default reply behavior. The recommendation is you change it to reply instead of reply all. You can still change to reply all, but then the default will be reply. And that's it. Again, the slide deck for this is bit.ly BP part 2 in all caps if you want to access the resources on there.